Hey guys, it's Bendy Penguin 64 and bit of a different sort of video today. Something really cool that happened last night or a couple of days ago, I'm not quite sure of the exact date. Season 5 of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic now has an official release date, April 4th, which is awesome. Really looking forward to that. And this news actually reminded me to make this video. This is a video that I've been on and off about making for quite a while because it's quite a personal story, but eventually I decided, screw it, let's just do this. So anyway, basically to celebrate this news, I'm going to talk about how I actually became a brony and what it's done to me, because for me, I feel like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is a very special cartoon. So yeah, and also, just so you know, I'm not reading a script. This is all off the top of my head, so this could turn into a ramble fest. But anyway, this story actually starts before I even knew what My Little Pony was. Well, I knew what My Little Pony was. I mean, Generation 4, Friendship is Magic. Anyway, before I even knew what it was September 2011, and this was during the first week, maybe even the first day, I can't quite remember, of my A-levels in sixth form. I'm not sure if this terminology is present in like most of the world, but in England, where I'm from at least, when you finish secondary school, you can either go to college or stay at school for an extra couple of years to do your A-levels, and I chose the latter personally because I don't know, it was more in my comfort zone. But anyway, one of the first classes that I went to in the first week was ICT class. I went in, sat down with all my friends. I'd say we were all decently excited about it. And then the teacher comes in, and I'm not exaggerating, the very first thing that he said to us was, "I'm going to get this out of the way now. A-level ICT is not fun. If you came here expecting to have a good time, you've come to the wrong place." That's what he said to us on the first day. And a lot of people might dismiss that immediately, thinking, that's just this guy thinking he's tough and cool. Nah, I'm not going to let him get to me. I'm going to ignore that comment and move on. But then there's me. The thing is that this is a problem that I've had pretty much my whole life, because something that I don't talk about on YouTube or anywhere very often, I have Asperger's syndrome, and I think it affects people differently. Like, some people have specific symptoms, others don't. But in my case, one of the effects of having Asperger's is that I tend to latch on to things that people say. So if someone says something that I feel is off colour or something that hurts my feelings, then I tend to latch on to that and take it a bit more seriously than I really should. And that was definitely the case here. Most people would dismiss that immediately, but when I heard that, immediately my mind was a mess of questions. I actually started thinking to myself, wait a minute, is he telling the truth? Am I genuinely not going to enjoy this? Should I have gone to college? Should I choose a different subject? Have I made a mistake? Is this the worst decision I'll ever make in my life? Like, have I genuinely wasted my future by picking this class? Have I made a mistake? So my mind was just a mess of questions, and that made me feel very stressed out, which was not a good thing, because the thing is, when I'm stressed out, I find it difficult to focus and retain information. And that doesn't help that A-levels are actually really difficult. I got a whole lot of work to do. So I was stressed out for a good couple of days after this revelation. And because of that, I found it difficult to focus on my work in lessons. And I couldn't retain information that I would need for exams and stuff. And because of that, the homework I was given was much harder. I found it difficult to complete properly. So when I turned in a piece of homework, most of my answers were wrong. And because of that, more often than not, when I was given homework, I would fail it horribly. And that wasn't something that I was used to. The thing is, like, I was never a straight A student or anything like that. I was more of a B, C average, which is still considered good. Anything above a C, well, a C and above is considered to be good in the school that I went to. But at this point, I dropped from B's and C's to D's and E's right off the bat. And D's and E's are still considered to be passes, I think, but it's on the verge of failing. It's not desirable. So because of that, when I failed a piece of homework, then that would make me sorry, keep screwing up my words. That would make me feel even more stressed, which meant that I would do even worse on the next piece of homework. So I got caught in this very negative spiral of getting stressed out, failing homework because I was stressed out, and then that would make me feel even more stressed out, so I would constantly fail homework. And I just couldn't get the hang of anything, like any information I was given in classes, because I was under so much stress. I couldn't retain information. I couldn't pass my classes at all. And this was something that I wasn't used to. All of this happened so quickly. This all happened in the first week or so of sixth form. It all happened so quickly that it was more than I was capable of handling, and it actually led me to fall into a very severe depression. And this carried on for 2 years. I was in sixth form for 2 years, 2011 to 2013, and besides the odd occasion like Christmas and stuff, I can't remember any real times during those 2 years that I was genuinely happy. So this wasn't just minor sadness, just feeling bad for a day or two. This was genuine depression. And it was very serious. In fact, there were a couple of occasions during those 2 years that I actually felt compelled to commit suicide. I was genuinely getting really close to actually doing that, because I didn't want to live in a world where I couldn't be happy. And I never told anyone about my depression because, well, I tried telling one person, but he didn't believe me, so I just gave up on that entirely. Never told anyone about it. So, yeah, not only was I heavily depressed, I wasn't getting help for it. And the thing is, and this is important, by the way, I feel like the one thing that could have potentially stopped all of this, the one thing that could have stopped me from feeling so depressed, would have been a more motivational environment. I've gone on record saying that if you're not willing to motivate students, you shouldn't be teaching at all, and I stand by that, because the thing is, some of my teachers in sixth form were motivational. Some of them did tell me, oh, just give it your all, you might succeed, you never know, really try your best at everything you do, you can be successful if you try. Some of them were like that, but for the most part, all a teacher would say to me was, you're failing, why is that? Fix it, get it sorted, pass this class. No one really said, oh, come on, if you really try, you can do it. I mean, some people said that, but for the most part, it was just, you're failing, fix it. That was it. There was no real motivation. So because of that, the depression continued. It just continued for the next couple of years. But then, skip forward to February of 2013. This was a good 3 years, or slightly less actually, I think, this was a good few years after My Little Pony first debuted. It was in 2010. And at one point, I was watching the Fine Brothers Teens React, and I noticed one episode entitled Teens React to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. This was when I first heard about it. And they went on to discuss, this show, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and they said that it had actually found a very large, very devoted fandom of adults, a large portion of which were male. And I remember when I first heard that, I actually kind of laughed at it. I thought the idea of this was stupid. I thought it was ridiculous. Because I looked at it, I thought, listen to this theme song, look at these characters, they're horses learning about friendship. How could this appeal to a sensible adult much less a male one. That's ridiculous. Now, with that said, I never actually went on to actively criticise bronies on the internet. Seriously, don't criticise someone for liking something that you don't. That's just rude. But I did always secretly think, wow, these guys are crazy. But with that said, for a good few months after I first learned what My Little Pony was, I did grow more and more curious as to why it was so popular, because as time went on, I would read through YouTube comments and see people with brony profile pictures. I would see pony fan art on Google Images. And that's always made me think, maybe, just maybe, these people are onto something. They must like this show for a reason. There must be a logical explanation for why this show has such a large fan base. And skip forward a bit more, turned out that one of my best friends was a brony, so that only piqued my curiosity more, just seeing his Pinkie Pie profile picture on Steam every day. So that still got me thinking, there must be a reason why he loves this show so much. So then, a few months after I first learned what My Little Pony was, I finally decided, you know what? I'm getting bored of seeing all these pony profile pictures and having no idea like why people care about this show so much. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go onto YouTube and sit down and watch an episode of this show. Now, with that said, the first time around, I didn't watch the entire episode. I chose Season 3's Keep Calm and Flutter On, and I only watched about 7 minutes of it. I didn't watch the whole thing because, I don't know, I couldn't really be bothered. But while I was watching it, I did notice that it was actually quite entertaining. I was actually liking what I was seeing. I didn't feel like sitting through the whole thing because, like, I don't know, I think I was secretly worried that I might like it and I didn't want that to happen. I don't know, I just didn't feel like watching the whole thing. But for the 7 minutes that I did watch it, I was actually pleasantly surprised. It was actually an entertaining episode. So I stopped watching it, but for the next couple of months, I kept telling myself, someday I should go back to this show. I should go back to it, watch an episode properly, just to see what the fuss is about. So then, sometime around July 2013, I think it was July 18th, I can't quite remember, but sometime in July, eventually I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to this show. I want to see why so many people love it, but this time, I'm going to sit down and watch the whole thing. I'm going to watch an episode all the way through, every single minute of it. So I sat down and watched Season 1 over a barrel, sat down and watched it, the entire thing, and I was blown away by how good it was. It was one of the greatest shows I had seen in ages. I noticed that there was so much good about it. The animation was fantastic, the voice acting was top notch, it was funny, it had a good story, the characters were likeable, and that was great. But I think what resonated with me the most was the moral, because in Over a Barrel they have a moral where two parties think that they own a plot of land and they get into a fight about it, but at the end of the episode they all come together to like solve the problem among themselves. Like there's this whole moral about, oh, you gotta share with other people, sharing is caring, and you know, that's a great moral for the kids. But when I saw that, seeing the way that the characters interacted with each other to solve each other's problems, it was one of the most motivational and cheerful things I had seen in ages. Like, considering that I had been in such a non-motivational environment for the 2 years that I had been in sixth form, this was almost a foreign concept to me, seeing people actually get along with each other, actually solving each other's problems rather than just saying, sort it out amongst yourselves, you can do whatever you want with that land, just fix it yourself. So yeah, seeing the way that they interacted, solving each other's problems, that was what resonated with me the most. And seeing that, I thought, this show is amazing. I need to watch more episodes. I need to see if this is consistent, like if every episode is this good. So then I watched another episode, and everything that I loved about the first episode was still there. Fantastic animation and voice acting, likeable characters, funny jokes, and a really sweet moral at the end. So then I watched more episodes and more, and after a few days, I had binge watched about a dozen episodes of My Little Pony. Each one was better than the last. I loved them all so much. And it was at this point that I suddenly realised that the depression that had been plaguing me for a good couple of years, I hadn't actually been thinking about it for the past few days since I started watching My Little Pony. And then I suddenly realised, oh, I completely forgot I'm severely depressed, aren't I? Well, hey, at least My Little Pony distracted me from it, so that's great, but now I can go back to feeling sad all the time. But then I thought more about it, and I suddenly realised, hey, wait a minute, I don't feel sad anymore. So not only did My Little Pony actually distract me from being depressed, it made me forget that I was depressed for quite a while, but it actually cured me of depression. It didn't just distract me, it got rid of it full stop. And keep in mind that this was a depression that made me question my will to live. It plagued me for 2 whole years, and all it took was a few episodes of My Little Pony to fix it. All it took was a little bit of motivation. My Little Pony gave it to me, and I never felt depressed again. I'm dead serious. Not once since then have I ever thought, oh, I'm so sad, I wish I didn't live anymore. I've never felt like that since watching that first episode. So that's really like how My Little Pony has changed my life. Like, it's changed my life in multiple ways. It's introduced me to some of my best friends on Twitter. It's a generally entertaining show, and yeah, there's a whole lot to love about it, but I think that's what really resonated with me the most. The fact that My Little Pony saved my life. I genuinely believe that it did. I honestly do believe that My Little Pony Friendship is Magic saved my life. And since then, not a day goes by that I don't ask myself, what would life be like if I had never watched that first episode? If I had never challenged myself to sit down, watch my first episode, if I had never done that, what would life be like? And I don't know exactly what life would be like. Maybe I overcame depression, maybe I didn't. But honestly, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, it saved my life. I cannot stress that enough. I've gone on record saying that it's my favourite cartoon ever, and that's why. Because it did something that no other cartoon, or anything really, has ever done. It actually made my life better. And yeah, I just love it for that. And there you go. I'm a brony. I'm proud of it. And I'm really looking forward to season 5. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.